Everybody, and welcome to Vinyl Treasures. I'm your host, Johnny G. John Galindo, coming to you live each and every Saturday only here on Top Shelf. Always want to welcome you to the May 5th, 2018 Vinyl Treasure Show. It's all 50s and early 60s 45s out of my collection. We opened up with the great tenor saxophonist out of Chicago, Illinois, Mr. Cozy Eggleston. Cozy Eggleston and his combo, February 1954 release. Song he wrote called Big Heavy was a theme song used by disc jockey George Hound Dog Lorenz on his show Sound of the Hound, if you tuned into that back in the 50s, WKBW out of Buffalo, New York, and also New York City disc jockey Alan Freed. He also played that 45 as a theme song when he was on Wynn's, his rock and roll party show. And the first time I heard that song was between segments of the Time Capsule show back in the early 1970s. And I do collect instrumentals, especially red vinyl ones like that one on the States label. 1954, Cozy Eggleston and his combo with a tune called Big Heavy. Got some Big Heavy 45s for this evening, so you got to stick around from 10 to midnight. Let's open up tonight's vocal portion on Bob Shadd's Warner label out of New York City. It's a vocal quartet, consists of a female lead and 3 male members. The female lead, her name is Dolores Butler. It also features Mr. King Curtis on wailing sax. We go back to February 1958. Give a listen to the Mighty Jupiters. It's on the Warner label. The name of the tune is called Hi Walkie Tumba.
Hi Walkie Tumba, little dog, Tumba. Hi Walkie Tumba, little dog, Tumba. Hi Walkie Tumba, little dog, Tumba. Hi Walkie Tumba, little dog, Tumba. Get to the atten, get to the atten,
February 1958 as we open up the vocal portion of the Vinyl Treasure Show. The Mighty Jupiters there. It's on the Warner Warner label. I have it on a white promo. You can also get it on the, I think it's the maroon stock, but I was lucky to get that promo. Hiwaukee Tumba is the name of the tune. I don't know who I heard that on. It might have been on George Tompkins' WARY show. I think he had that 45 also. Could have been the Time Capsule show, but I used to hear it on one of those collector stations back in the mid 1970s. But John G here for a Saturday evening as we continue here. We play a couple up-tempo tunes before we count down the music chronologically here. And on the last 50 show, I played a request for George Tompkins. He wanted to hear the Winners, a.k.a. the Victorians, on Eddie Heller's Rainbow label. And he requested the side, Can This Be Love? Now, let's flip it over. It's got a great jump. On the flip side, we go back to March of 1956. These are the Winners on Rainbow, and their tune called Rockin' and Rollin'.
Rock, 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 everybody rock, 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 everybody rock, 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 everybody rock, 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 everybody rock, everybody. We wanna rock tonight. Roll, 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 everybody roll, 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 everybody roll, 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 everybody roll, 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 everybody, roll, everybody. We wanna roll tonight. Stop, 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 everybody stop, 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 everybody stop, 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 everybody stop, 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 everybody stop, everybody. We wanna stop tonight. Clap, 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 everybody clap, 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 everybody clap, 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 everybody clap, 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 everybody clap, everybody. We gonna clap We have rock, we have roll, we have stomp, we have clap. We have rock, we have roll, we have stomp, we have clap. We have rock and roll and stomp. Hey, hey, rock, 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 everybody roll, 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 everybody stomp, 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 everybody clap, 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 everybody rock, everybody. We gonna rock tonight.
Yeah, those are the Winners. The Winners on Eddie Heller's Rainbow record label, their March 1956 release. Rockin' and Rollin' is the name of the tune, as we do a lot of that here on the Vinyl Treasures on Saturday evenings. Let's continue here. And we count down the music chronologically here on the 50s edition. I don't feature this group from New York City that often, and I really should play more of this vocal group, but they started recording back in 1946 for the Hub label. Then other labels like National, King, Columbia, OK, Mercury, Jubilee, and others, and featured a number of lead singers through the years: Leonard Puzzi, Jimmy Ricks, Maith Marshall, Joe Van Loan, and others. I wonder if you figured out who I'm talking about. Of course, it's the Ravens I'm talking about. Now, in late September 1952, Mercury Records announced they were going to discontinue its various numbering series, because Mercury used to identify their genre of music by their numbering series. The 5000 series, that was the R&B line. The 6000 series was country. The 8000 series supposedly was pop, and they were going to consolidate all further releases from one point, I think it was late 1952, into a single 70,000 series, and this was the first Mercury as by the Ravens that ended up on that 70,000 series. It was like 70,060. to be exact, but it's co-written by the lead singer, that be Jimmy Ricks. Here are the Ravens. We go back to December 1952 on the Mercury record banner, the Ravens with their tune called I'll Be Back.
Baby, I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Makes no difference, honey, what you say or do.
Say or do.
Even though you say we're through, that won't stop my love for you. No, I'm coming back home to you.
Home to you.
Yes, I love you.
Yes, it's true.
Will I love you?
Yes, it's true.
Baby, makes no difference what you say or do.
Say or do.
Even though you drive me away, I'm coming back to you someday. Well, I'm coming back home to you.
Home to you.
Well, you led me to the altar. I took you for my wife. Said that I would love you, baby, keep you all my life. Well, I did something for you, honey, that the good Lord never done. Gave you some hair, honey, cause he sure didn't give you none. You said, give me something, baby, something that I can keep. I got your cycle flower cider meat, some syrup and sneaky Pete. Well,
back, I'll be back.
Yes, this morning,
hopping, skipping, jumping down the railroad track.
Well, I don't care what you say or do, you can't keep me from loving you.
Back, home to you. Back, pretty baby, I'll be back. Hopping and skipping down the railroad track. I'll be back. I'll be back to you. Don't care what you say or do, can't keep me away from you. Back, home to you.
Well, I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Well, home to you.
Home to you.
Well, I'll be back. Home to you.
Home to you.
Early sides here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Usually don't hear those cool jumps by the Ravens there. That's Jimmy Ricks and the Ravens. Mercury Records, I'll Be Back is the name of that one as we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Now I was talking to fellow Top Shelf Oldies DJ, Mr. Dave the Rave. He is host of Relics and Rarities here on Sunday evenings starting at 9 p.m. And he mentioned one of his listeners called in to guess, one of his mystery oldies that he does, I think on his syndicated show, though. And he also made a request for a song. He asked Dave if he could play a song by the Embers on Herald, because he said that he used to go to Times Square Records and he bought that 45 on Herald sometime back, probably in the early 60s at Times Square Records. Now, Dave told him that the song was really too early for Dave's Relics and Rarity show, and maybe a better fit would be, Johnny G's Vinyl Treasure Show. And Dave was absolutely correct. I actually own 3 copies of that 45. The two are on Al Silver's Herald label. Came out originally on the Black Herald block print, then also came out on the Yellow Herald, but I have it on the first press. The true first press is on Ember Records. I posted it up on my Facebook wall. And so we're going to play this 45, the original, on the Ember label, and send it out to Ray of Rockaway, New Jersey. And it features Willis Sanders on lead, and he was previously a member of the Marshall Brothers, and the group would later on become Willis Sanders and the Embers, of course. But let's send this one out to Ray of Rockaway, New Jersey. We go back to March of 1953. This is on the original Ember label, Ember, I think it's 101. It's like a maroon-looking Ember with silver print. And give a listen to the Embers with Willis Sanders on lead, and the song is called Paradise Hill.
So lonely, dear, on Paradise Hill. If you were only here, on Paradise Hill. Our love would live again. My arms would hold you tight. Your lips would then remember the kiss of our first night. That night was all asleep. One moment divine, and here you promise me you'd always be mine. I'm always dreaming of my one and only thrill. Come back, my love.
Please come back
to Paradise Hill.
Come back, come back, come back, come back, come back.
Yeah, that's the original on the Ember label from March 1953. Those are the Embers on the Ember label. Paradise Hill is the name of the tune. We send it out to Ray of Rockaway, New Jersey. Now, the song was written by Eugene Pearson. And he was the lead of the Rivaliers, and at the time, the label owner also gets writer credits on Ember. His name was Mercy Ellington. Now, Al Silver acquired the label in April of '53, and he re-released that record on the Herald label, so that's why you can get it on Herald, and you can also get it on Ember. Not that easy to find on the Ember label, but very rare 45. John G here for a Saturday evening. Hope you're digging on the cool tunes here. Let's continue. We move into 1954, but we stay in New York City for this next group. On Sid Nathan's King label out of Cincinnati, Ohio, but the group was out of New York City. They're called the Checkers. It's their 7th of 11 that they recorded on the King label, and we can call this an answer song to the Domino's 60-Minute Man, which featured the bass lead of Bill Brown, but he left the Domino's in February of '52 to this group, to join this group called the Checkers, and he's on lead here from April '54, the Checkers on King. It's called Don't Stop Dan.
Don't stop Dan.
No.
And you're in sand.
Yeah.
Don't stop Dan.
No.
And you're in sand.
Well, the other night I met a little girl. Man, she was really out of this world. I said, I'll teach her love and dance. 60 minutes plan, but she said, don't stop. I think you better go, but she said, don't stop. She kept on saying no, till she cried, don't stop, loving Dan. You got 59 minutes to go.
Don't stop Dan.
No.
And you're in sand.
Yeah.
Don't stop Dan.
No.
And you're in sand.
Well, I asked her
kiss or two. She told me that would never do. Then she gave me a kiss that was mighty strong, 60 minutes long. But she said, don't stop, I think you better go. But she said, don't stop. She kept on saying no till she cried, don't stop loving. Then you got 59 minutes to go. Don't stop then, and you're raising sand. Don't stop then, and you're raising sand. Don't stop then, and you're raising sand. I'm told I'd like to hold her tight, but she told me that wouldn't be right. She just didn't seem to understand my 60 minutes plan. But she said, don't stop, I think you better go. But she said, don't stop. She kept on saying no till she cried, don't stop loving. Then you got 59 minutes to go. Don't stop then, and you're raising sand. Don't stop then, and you're raising sand. Don't stop then, and
Yeah, those are the Checkers. April 1954 release. That's the 7th of 10 they recorded on Sid Nathan's King label. Don't Stop Dan is the name of the tune. The great bass lead of Bill Brown. John G here for a Saturday evening. We continue here. Here's a flip side from the last 50's edition. This group out of Hartford, Connecticut played the B-side of their third release that came out on the Decca label. Was the group's overall last record. I played the up-tempo side. It was called Big Mouth Mama. Featured Sam McClure on lead, but let's give a listen to the A-side. This is the intended A-side. It features Scott King on lead. We go back to July 54. These are the Shadows on the Decca label. The tune is called Better Than Gold.
The story I read in your wonderful eyes is better than gold.
Better than gold.
The song that I hear in your heavenly sigh is better than gold.
Better than gold.
A miracle has happened. I'm rich beyond compare. The first time that I saw you, I became a millionaire. The dream that I see when you're smiling at me is better than gold.
Better than gold.
A flame in my heart will go on endlessly and never grow cold.
Never grow cold.
Oh, can't have the pleasure of counting its wealth untold. For I have the great treasure of all, a love that's better untold. For I have the greatest treasure of all, a love that's better than gold, a love that's better than gold.
Yeah, July 1954 release there. Those are the Shadows on Decca Records. Better Than Gold is the name of the tune. I found that 45 local, I don't know, garage sale, I think, for $1. Well worth $1, I'd say. But that features Scott King on lead. He was the lead on the majority of the releases for the Shadows, and I think all of them except possibly 3. That other guy, Sam McClure, he did lead, I think, on some of the up-tempo sides. John G here for a Saturday evening. This is the 50s and early 60s edition of the Vinyl Treasure Show. We go back to another Sid Nathan label. Let's go to Federal Records now, as this LA-based group first started recording as the Lamplighters back in 1953, but out 1245s and on Federal, and the main voice for the group, that was Thurston Harris, but he left the group, and the brass at Federal said that a name change was in order when Thurston left, so they became the Tenderfoots after that, and this was the first of 4 they recorded as the Tenderfoots. We go to March of 1955. It's on Federal Records, and give a listen to the Tenderfoots with their tune called Kissing Bug.
I wanna hug, hug, hug. I wanna kiss, kiss, kiss. One little kiss, kiss, kiss. You'll never miss my little kissing bug. You know, no, no, I really love you so, so, so. I never let you go, 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 until I get a kiss. My little kissing bug. You're sweet, sugar bowl. You thrill and chill me to my soul. Now please don't leave me here like this, so
come on, baby, just one more kiss.
I wanna kiss, kiss, kiss you. I wanna hug, hug, hug. One little kiss, kiss, kiss. You'll never miss my little kissing bug. Sugar bowl, you thrill and chill me to my soul. Now please don't leave me here like this, so
come on, baby, just one more kiss.
I wanna hug, hug, hug. I wanna kiss, kiss, kiss. One little kiss, kiss, kiss. You'll never miss my little kissing bug. Like sugar-coated candy, you make me feel so dandy. So give me one sweet kiss. You hear?
And March 1955 there. Sounds like Carl White. I think Carl White replaced Thurston Harris. Wasn't sure on that, but those are the Tenderfoots. Tenderfoots on the Federal label. That's the first of 4 is the Tenderfoots, a song entitled Kissing Bug, as we move on here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. And this next group, they are originally from Philadelphia, PA, but they won second prize at the Apollo Theater Amateur Hour in early 1954. And it just so happened that in the audience was the owner of Savoy Records, that being Mr. Herman Lubinsky. And he signed them to his label right then and there, and the result were 3 singles. Here's the A-side to their third. It features George Tinley on lead. Let's go to April of 1955. Savoy Records. Give a listen to The Dreams. These are The Dreams with their tune called I'll Be Faithful.
I'll be faithful forever and ever, dear. days are dark, I'll take your hand and guide you. I'll be faithful. You'll always be in my heart. Always love you just as I do. There'll be no other lips, no other arms but yours. I shall be faithful to you.
Darling, there'll be no other lips, no other arm but yours.
I shall be faithful to you.
April 1955, there for the Dreams. That's their third release from Herman Levinsky's Savoy Records. I'll Be Faithful is the name of the tune. George Tinley, he's the lead singer. He was previously the lead of the Modern Redcaps. And this Dreams group would record also as Kenny Esquire and the Starlights on the Ember label. And George Tinley would go on to a solo career with releases on Herald, Ember, Parkway, Wand, and other labels. And I forget, one on Rowax I really like that he does from 63. Anyway, let's continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. We are in the year 1955. This next group, they are from the Morrisania section of the Bronx, New York. They signed with Joe Davis's JD record label. The result were 4 releases. Now, their most popular, I'm sure many of you know that tune. It's called Smoke from Your Cigarette. And that one from January 1955. But this was their 4th and final release on the JD label. It features Lillian Leach on lead. Let's go to August 1955. These are the Mellows on JD with their tune called Lovable Lily.
Who's that?
I stay dressed to the T.
Who's that?
All men love to look at me.
Who's that?
Say it's sweet and plain, 'cause love for Lily is my name.
Who's that?
When I
It's the fourth and final release for Lillian Leach and the Mellows. Joe Davis's JD record label, August 1955. Lovable Lily is the name of the tune, and after this release they would sign with Celeste Records, and then their last two releases came out on the Candlelight label in early 1957. We'll get those on future Vinyl Treasure shows. Johnny G here for a Saturday evening. Hope you're digging on all these cool 1950s 45s. We are in the year, no, did we go? What did I say? That was 1955. Well, let's move into 1956 now, and you all know this next group out of Chicago, Illinois. Their signature song came out in 1955 on Vivian Carter's VJ label. It was called At My Front Door. Really a classic song as today goes. That a very much a classic tune today, and a 45 my aunt purchased in the summer of 1955. But here is the B-side to their sixth VJ release. The A-side was called Rock and Rolls for Me. It was a follow-up to, I guess, their second biggest hit, which was called I'll Be Forever Loving You, but I like the B-side better, and this one was recorded a year earlier in 1955, but released in March of 1956. It's with Al Smith's orchestra, and we go back to March of 56 for the Eldorados. Perkle Moses, he's on lead. This is VJ Records. The name of the tune is called Now That You've Gone.
You've gone now that I love you so. Oh, darling, why did you go? Oh, darling, now that you've gone, yes, you've gone, yes, you're gone. Now that my heart beats for you, why do you want somebody new? Oh, darling, now that you've gone, yes, gone, gone, just when I want you near, but since you've say is come back here. You've gone now that I need you so. Why did you ever go? Oh, darling, now that you've gone, yes, now that you've gone, now that you've gone, now that you've gone.
Sound of Chicago here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those are the Eldorados. That is a B-side, the B-side to their 6th of 11 releases on Vivian Carter's VJ record label. Now That You've Gone is the name of the tune. Unfortunate that we lost Perko Lee Moses on December 16th of 2000. Died from a brain tumor. He was 63 years old, but he left us with some really great tunes, and I like that sound of Chicago. John G here for a Saturday evening. We continue. Here's another flip side from a couple weeks ago. We go to Bernie Lowe's teen label for this group. They're called the Ebb Tides. I featured the B-side, a song entitled Only Be Mine, which featured the male lead. Now his wife is doing lead on the A-side. Now Charlene found out that her name was Betty McCann. And we go back to 1956 and give a listen to the Ebb Tides. The Ebb Tides on Teen with, I guess, their classic for collectors. This record, a classic if you have it. And I don't know of any nice copies that are out there, but this one plays pretty good. Let's give it a spin. The Ebb Tides on Teen and their tune called What Is Your Name, Dear?
What is your name, dear? The boy next door. What is your name, dear? I want to know. I adore you. That's why I want to know.
I want to know.
What is your name, dear?
name,
The
dear?
boy next door. What is your name, dear?
What is your name?
I want to know. I adore you. That's why I want to know. Yes, that night when I saw that look in your eyes, I began to realize. Yes, I hope and I pray you'd be by my side. You ignored me, and oh, how I cried. What is your name, dear?
What is your name,
The
dear?
boy next door. What is your name, dear?
What is your name,
I asked before. I adore you. That's why I want to know. Yes, that night when I saw that look in your eyes, I began to realize. Yes, I hope and I pray you'd be by my side. You ignored me, and oh, how I cried. What is your name, dear?
What is your name,
The
dear?
boy next door. What is your name, dear?
What is your name,
I asked before. I adore you. That's why I want to know.
Sounds of 1956 here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those are the Ebb Tides. The Ebb Tides on the teen label out of Philadelphia, PA. What is your name, dear? Is the name of the tune. It's Betty McCann, C-A-N, and she is on lead there, and that record started Johnny G's compulsive addiction to buying vinyl, because once you get to the next level, you have to keep on going up, and that's what happens in addictions. And so you start spending a little bit more money. So that kind of kicked it off, the four-figure spending for your host Johnny G. I've never gotten past four figures, I will tell you that much. And I will tell you, I do have a limit in how much I would spend for a 45, and I had so many that I had to turn away, because I have to put a limit on it, because I will just get buried in vinyl. Yes, I will. And I can't really, you don't want to do that. You want to pace yourself, and you don't want to have an overdose of vinyl, as we do here on Saturday evenings. Let's continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Now, in the last 50s edition, I played this group from the Newark Elizabeth section of New Jersey, their second of two on Thomas Robinson's Atlas label, and I featured their tune called My Heart Tells Me, but that was the A-side. Let's flip it over, give a listen to the B-side. It features Leroy Williams on lead. We go to September of 1956. These are the Parakeets Quintet. It's on Atlas, and they're singing about their gal. Her name is Yvonne.
Come back to me.
September 56 release there for the Parakeets Quintet. That's the second of two on Thomas Robinson's Atlas label. First time I heard that, I bought that Relic LP, the best of Atlas Angletone. Eventually found the 45s. I still need a few early sides on the the Atlas label, but they're very expensive. But that's a cool tune. I like both sides of that record. The Parakeets Quintet, Leroy Williams, he's the lead singer. Yvonne is the name of the tune. Now let's move on here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Here's another expensive 45 as we go to George Goldner's G label. Now this group was at odds with coming up with a name. So when they had no name, they decided to use the word no, or the two words no name, and just flip it around. Let's spell it backwards. So if you spell no name backwards, you end up with Eminon. I think I posted this on my Facebook wall. You can check out the photograph there. But this group, they're known called the Eminons, and features Robert Coleman on lead. We go to March of 56. This is their first release for the Eminons. It's on the G label. It's called Hindu Baby.
Oh, 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 oh.
Booga booga doo darling. Well, in India, not so long ago, I met a Hindu girl and I never saw a hand so warm and a heart so cold, but she got my heart and soul. Well, Hindu baby, I love you, my Hindu baby. I need you, my Hindu baby. You're my voodoo doll. When I throw all your herbs and your roots away, well, now throw all your herbs and your roots away. Well, now give me one chance, please let me say, hey, hey, my Hindu baby, I love you, my Hindu baby, I need you, my Hindu baby, got to have you, my Hindu baby, I want you, my Hindu baby, you're my voodoo doll.
That sounds like Jimmy Wright in the orchestra, although he doesn't get mentioned on that 45. Wonder why. Usually did, though, as Goldner did that. But those are the Eminons, March 1956. Robert Coleman, he's the lead singer. Hindu Baby, it's the name. That's the name of the tune. They would have a follow-up release to this in July of 56 on the Josie label. A nice cover of the tune Blue Moon. John G here for a Saturday evening. It was a nice day today. I hate when we go from winter to summer in like 3 days. It was just too hot too quickly. I was in the city on Thursday. I went to an E&Y tax conference down there, and I went last year. It's been a year since I've taken the train into the city, and it was kind of weird. I was crossing Madison Avenue, and it was like somebody walking in front of me. I said, you look familiar. And I walked up to him and I said, "Are you Sandy?" He goes, "Yeah, Johnny G." He goes, "What are you doing here?" I said, "What am I doing here? What are you doing here?" "I'm going to the Marriott Marquis to the E&Y tax conference." He goes, "That's funny. I'm going there too." And I said, of all coincidences, to meet one of my co-workers from back in 1980, of the millions of people in New York City, to run into him after all these years, since 1980. That's a lot of years. And I think he still looked the same, just a little bit older, I guess. I looked a little bit older and probably fatter. But anyway, it was pretty cool. And he goes, "I love your show." Because I think he's a Facebook friend of mine. He goes, "I listen to your show all the time. I love those cool 50's records." So I was really happy when he told me that anyway. I just thought I'd figured to fit that in anyway. John G here for a Saturday evening. Let's continue. We are in the year 1956. Let's stay in that same month and year, March of 56, of that Eminon's release. For this next release, as this group was originally from Detroit, Michigan, their debut single came out on Aladdin Records back in 1954. They were known as the Five Pearls, but then they dropped the five when they and just became known as the Pearls when they signed to Atco Records, and here is the second of two that they recorded for Atco, and I really like this tune, I really do, and it features Howard Guyton on lead. Let's go to March of 1956. These are the Pearls. It's on the Maroon Atco label, and their tune's called Bells of Love.
You know I love you, darling, I love you. The bells ring above you. They say that it's so. Thrill me the first time I kissed you. The bells say I missed you. I want you to know.
Say you'll be mine, make life divine, be my rising sun. Choirs will sing, joy you will bring, when we are one.
Love you, darling, I love you. The bells ring above you. They say that it's
Oops, as Johnny G gets caught off guard. That's March 1956. That's the second of two for the Pearls. It's on the Atco label. And it's the unmistakable voice. Really, he does. Howard Guyton, he has an unmistakable voice. A tune called Bells of Love. After Atco Records, they signed with Jerry Winston's Onyx label. Had some local New York hits. Decent hits here in the New York area. Let's You and I Go Steady, Ice Cream Baby, a couple of others. They really did well for Jerry Winston and the Onyx record label. Johnny G here for a Saturday evening. As we continue, we move into 1957. Let's go back to another George Gollner label, and posted this 45 up on my Facebook wall. It's his Gone label, an ultra rare 45 on the Gone label. Not much known about this group, except that there were not a lot of copies that exist on the original Black Gone label. Most of them were pressed in the early 60s. Gollner repressed it on his multicolor label, and that thing goes for about $75 to $100 for a mint copy. But the originals are very expensive. I have to thank the late Spence Wooten for selling me this record and thousands of others in my collection. He's always with me with this record collection, and I really do miss Spence and the talks and the record talks, etc. But he sold me this 45, and we're going to give a listen to the intended B-side, but both sides are excellent. 1957, George Gollner's Gone label. These are the Deltas with their tune called The Lamp Lights.
Do da 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 do da 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 do da da whoa whoa do da da do da da do da da whoa whoa
I glow, my love for you continually grows. I'll love you, darling, with my heart and soul. Will you ever understand? I dream of you nightly, in hopes that you will say you're mine at last. Will my wishes ever come to pass? I love you, I do.
When I didn't know anything about this music back in the early 70s, and I heard this on, I don't know who played it. Somebody played it. One of the collector shows played it, and they didn't announce the artist or the song. They didn't announce it. So I wrote this down. I'm like, I gotta find this record. And you would never know, because sometimes it's hard to hear them say Lamplight. And I thought this song was called Will You Ever Understand? So I wrote this down, and I had this want list. I used to listen to Gus Gossard. I used to listen to the Time Capsule Show. I used to listen to George Duop Tompkins. I used to write these songs down, and if they didn't give me the artist or the name and then the label, I didn't know what I was looking for. So I'm like, do you have Won't You Ever Understand? I started going to record shows, and they're like, what are you talking about? And they were trying to think what that record was. So a lot of the guys, the collectors that played the records, they never gave the artist. They never gave the title of the song. They were like, keeping it in mystery or whatever it was. But anyway, I eventually found out that those were the Deltas from 1957 on George Goldner's Gone label. So when I first got the Kreider price guide, I'm like, I can't pay that for that record. I might as well get the multicolor for, it was like, I think $40, I think, at the time I purchased it. But then Spence said, Johnny, I can get you a black Deltas on Gone. I said, Spence, if you give me that record, I'll pay the price. And it was within my 4-figure spending limit at the time. As you know, this collecting is an addiction. Anyway, sorry to babble on, folks, but that's a great two-sided 45. Next week we'll play the flip side. As we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show, we stay in the year 1957, and on the last 50s edition, I featured the Whirlers on Bobby Robinson's Whirling Disc label with their tune called Tonight and Forever. Now, the Whirlers were really the Empires, who earlier recorded on the Harlem and Mercury labels. Now, the group's second release on the Harlem label from April of 55 was a song called Magic Mirror. They would re-record that song 2 years later for Bobby Robinson's Whirling Disc label, and we're going to give it a spin right now as we flip over Tonight and Forever. This one from May 57 features John Barnes. He's on lead. These are the Whirlers, aka the Empires, on Whirling Disc with their resung version of Magic Mirror.
Do 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 do. Magic mirror on the wall, is she the fairest of them all? Oh, tell me, magic mirror on the wall, magic mirror on the wall, do you think she loves me at all? Oh, tell me, magic mirror on the wall, will she be mine? Just as long as I live, till death do us part. Tell me, mirror on the wall, does she love me? Oh, magic mirror on the wall, is she the fact
Those are the Whirlers, a.k.a. the Empires, with Magic Mirror, May 1957 release. Bobby Robinson's Whirling Disc record label. That is their resung version. I have to agree with Warren. That is definitely a great record. John Barnes, he is on lead. John G here for a Saturday evening. Hope you're digging on these cool tunes. We are in the year 1957. Now, this next 45 is on Archie Bleyer's Cadence label out of New York City. This label not really known for rhythm and blues vocal groups, but lots of pop 45s like Julius La Rosa, the Everly Brothers, the Chordettes, Andy Williams, a whole bunch of things. Of course, when I started collecting, I didn't know who. I thought maybe Julius La Rosa might be some cool R&B record. Of course, it was not. Of course, I collect the Cadence record, don't get me wrong, but I don't mind paying 5 cents for the record. That's well worth it for your host Johnny G. But Archie did record one vocal group, and they were called the Metronomes. Now, the lead singer, his name was Sonny Wright, and he was previously the lead singer of the Diamonds that recorded for the Atlantic label, also the Regals. They were the same group. They were also on Atlantic. But this is the second of two. They had two releases on the Cadence label, and all four sides are excellent. And this is a side that Sonny Wright wrote. It features Jesse Stone and his orchestra. So probably, maybe Archie bought the master, possibly from Atlantic, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, March 1957. The Metronomes on Cadence with their tune called I'm Gonna Get Me a Girl Somehow.
I'm gonna get me a girl somehow. I gotta find me a chick right now. I've gotta find me a friend who's strictly feminine. Gonna get me a girl somehow. I've gotta find me a girl that's true. She's gotta do what I tell her to do. If your girl's what I need, don't let me get a lead. Gonna get me a girl somehow. Oh, fellas, you better hide your girl. Sonny's on the spree. First we start to kiss and then she wanna miss it, and she'll be with me. I'll give her diamonds and furs, anything she wants to be hers. We'll be married by a preacher in a house full of noise. Have a lot of babies and they'll all be boys. That's when I repeat my vow. I'm gonna get me a girl, get me a girl, get me a girl somehow. Yeah. Anything she wants will be hers. We'll be married by a preacher in a house full of noise. Have a whole lot of children and they'll all be boys. That's when I repeat my vow. I'm gonna get me a girl, get me a girl, get me a girl somehow.
Believe it or not, that's on Archie Bleyer's Cadence label, with all the Everly Brothers and the Chordettes and no, not Roger Williams, Andy Williams, and some other pop records on that label. But anyway, those are the Metronomes, March 1957 on Cadence Records. I'm Gonna Get Me a Girl Somehow. Sonny Wright, he's on lead, was the lead of the Diamonds on the Atlantic record label. Anyway, Johnny G here for a Saturday evening. Hope you're digging on these cool 45s. And this is the only time Johnny G gets to enjoy these records, too. I rarely get the chance to listen to them, and I always do as I'm playing them and bopping around. But let's continue here for this group out of Steubenville, Ohio. They used to practice singing at the local pool hall, and one day in late November of 56, they drove 350 miles into New York City to audition for Atlantic Records, but they were rejected by Atlantic. But they found out that King Records had a New York City office, and when they went there, they met up with Henry Glover, one of King's many A&R men at the time, and he signed them to a 2-year contract, and on November 27th, they recorded 4 songs at Regency Studios at 56 West 56th Street, if that is such a street. No, there is, but 56 West 56th Street, I guess that is a legit number. But they were called the Hi-Fis back then, but since they were from Steubenville, Ohio, and Henry Glover was also from Ohio, he wanted them to change their name to the Buckeyes, I guess, for the Buckeye State. And this was their debut single. It was a cover of the Buddy Johnson Penn song, and it features Howard Alsbrook. He's on lead. Let's go to January 1957. These are the Buckeyes on Deluxe with their rendition of the tune Since I Fell for You.
I fell for you.
Cover tunes here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those are the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes, January 1957 release, their rendition of the tune Since I Fell for You. That's the first of 2 they recorded on Deluxe. I like their other one, Dottie Baby is the name of that one. I'm going to have to pull it out and play it for Barbara's mother. Her name is Dottie. But anyway, they would later on change their name to the Stereos. And, of course, the Stereos, with releases on many different labels, they had their biggest national hit in 1961 on the Cub label, if you know that cool tune, I Really Love You, by the Stereos. But they were first known as the Buckeyes. John G here for a Saturday evening. We continue and got another B-side from the last 50's show. I filled a request for George Tompkins. He wanted to hear From Me by the Plants, who are out of Baltimore, Maryland. Came out on Zell Sanders' J&S label. But the flip side is also a cool jump. It features George Jackson on lead. Let's go to May of 1958 and give a listen to the Plants on Zell Sanders' J&S label. And this is the B-side. It's called My Girl.
Well, I got a girl, and she's fine. She looks like Frankenstein. She got friends, that's true. But I think they come from a zoo. But I love her, yes I do. 'Cause she is my girl. She got big eyes and droopy lips, and when she walks, it's good lips. She's got her smile. Boy, she can giggle a while. But I love her, yes I do. 'Cause she is my girl, yeah. She's the only girl for me. That's it. Yes, that's look what you have done. But I love her, yes I do. 'Cause she is my girl. Heaven I belong, her mind is like the weather. She's well put together. That's it. Yes, I can see, but what can it be? But I love her, yes I do. 'Cause she is my girl. Oh, she is my girl. Yeah. Oh, she is my girl. Yeah, she is my girl. Yeah, she is my girl.
B-sides here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those are the Plants. The Plants from May 1958. That is the B-side to John G. Loses His Mind Here. From Me is the side that George requested. We just flipped it over, gave a listen to the B-side. It's called My Girl. Now, the lead singer there, his name was George Jackson, and he would go on to have some solo releases. One good one he does on the Les K label from 62. It's called Watching the Rainbow. I have to find that one played for you guys here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. And that 45 I won it in an auction. If anyone has ever dealt with Lou Haggis, I think that was it. Lou Haggis, he was the one that he had a bunch of lots of double 45s that he would sell at a bunch of the record shows there, and pretty nice prices too, to say the least. Anyway, John G here for a Saturday evening. We are in the year 1958, and this next song is a request by Mr. George Tompkins. He requested this 45 on the Dove label out of New York City, and the writer of the song is, let me put this thing on here, folks, because I also, Johnny G goes bonkers. I also record it for those that do not have access to the internet. But anyway, it's on the Dove label out of New York City. The writer of the song is Lawrence Banks. Now, he was a member of the Four Fellows on the Glory label. You know the tune Soldier Boy by the Four Fellows. But he was also a member of this group that recorded as the Companions. And they do this wonderful ballad by request for George Tompkins. I think Milton Bennett, he's the lead singer. Let's go to October of 58. These are the Companions on Dove. Their tune is called Falling.
I'm falling, can't help it, dear. I started falling the moment you came near. All of a sudden, there I was in love with you. I am calling. Down on my bended knees I started calling. Please put my heart at ease. I've given my soul to you. Now tell me what else can I do? I have never walked around with my head in the clouds, but lately, yes, lately I find that no matter what I do, I keep thinking of you, and I just can't keep you out of my mind. Please tell me you're falling, as I have felt for you, my darling. Oh, my darling, tell me that you love me too. Darling, as I love you, please tell me that you love me too. My darling, as I love you.
That is a nice ballad going out to Mr. George Tompkins there. October 1958, those are the Companions. It's on Dove Records out of New York City, and their cool tune called Falling. Now, this Companions group, they had the same group that recorded on the Brooks and Federal labels with a female lead. In 1959, they did a tune called I Didn't Know You Got Married. That featured Bessie White on lead, and she would eventually marry Larry Banks. And, of course, she then became Bessie Banks. And you may know that she recorded the original version of Go Now in 1964, on the Tiger label maybe, and it of course was a big hit for the Moody Blues in 65. But this and also this group of Companions, they recorded as the Four Fellows on the Popline label back in 1961. As we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show, we are in the year 1958. Here's a 45 my Aunt Mary used to spin for me all the time. She purchased it in the summer of 1958. This great group out of Brooklyn, New York, recorded some excellent sides for Jerry Winston's Onyx label beginning in 1956. But when Winston sold all his masters to MGM, he became the head. He was to become the head of a new subsidiary of MGM, be it Cub Records. It was first called Orbit Records, but they had to change it to Cub. And this was one of those leftover masters that Cub Records put out by the Velours. It features the late Jerome Ramos on lead. It's with Sandy Lowe and the orchestra. We go to July of 1958 for the Velours on Cub and their tune called Crazy Love.
My dear, how I love you so, can't resist wanting you. I know when we kiss, I am all aglow, crazy love. I hear someone call your name, and my heart seems to be ashamed. When we part, I am not the same, crazy love. Then I saw all the mystery of crazy love. about. Then I'd solve all the mystery of crazy love, crazy love, crazy love, crazy love.
That's July 1958 release there. For the Velours, the late Jerome Ramos, he's on lead, the first of two on the Cub record label. Crazy Love is the name of the tune. I'm going to have to play that for my aunt tomorrow when she calls up here at the house. She talks to me about a lot of the records I played, and I tell her, you remember this? I want her to get a TV so she could actually see the video of me. I don't know what TV she has, but I have to set her up because she is not electronically inclined, that is for sure. But I think if I show her, she'll be able to tune into the Vinyl Treasure Show. Let's continue here. In 1958, a couple weeks ago, I opened up the vocal portion with Jimmy Royster and a group on Mary E. Johnson's Sky label that's out of San Francisco, California. It was a cool up tempo. It was called Rock. But that was the intended B-side. Let's flip it over. Give a listen to the A-side before I file it down in the no humidity basement. It's a nice ballad as we stay in 1958. It's on cool-looking red vinyl. Love those red vinyl 45s. Oh, this one doesn't play so well. I don't know. Some of those San Francisco presses just are not good. But let's give it a spin here. Jimmy Royster and a group on the Sky label from 58. The name of the tune is called They May Not Like Me.
They may not like me. They may not like you. That's why I'm asking you. Please don't break the news. We'll tell them we're married and pray they'll understand it. We'll tell them we're happy. We'll tell them how we feel. That's why I'm asking you. Please don't break the news. Please don't break the news.
Well, that is Jerry Royster and a group. You know what I'm thinking that record sounds like another record. Anybody familiar with a group called the Checker Dots? A song called Alpha Omega? Well, it's a little bit slower than that, but it's a lot like that record, I say. But that's from 1958. It's on the Sky record label. Actually became Skylight later on when it was resurrected by Mary Johnson, who owned the label. That's Jimmy Royster and a group, They May Not Like Me. Well, hopefully you like Johnny G on Saturday evenings from 10 to midnight right here on Top Shelf Oldies. And we move into 1959 now. Let's head to Atlanta, Georgia, to the Jax label, JAX Records. It's a subsidiary of Bill Lowry's NRC label, which stands for National Recording Corporation. And of course, Lowry, he owned other subsidiaries like Judd and Scotty, and he also had his own pressing plant and record distributorship. Unfortunately, he eventually went bankrupt, I think, after about 3 or 4 years when he opened up his record business in 58. But and I could easily identify all his presses because they have like this serif type print. It looks pretty interesting, but you just can see when you look at the print on these NRC labels and this Jax label, for instance. But this singer goes by the name of Robert Peebles, and there's an unidentified group, and the writers are Ron and Jimmy Isle. Let's go to September of 59 for Robert Peebles on Jax, Jax, and the name of the tune is called This Little Light of Mine.
I'll keep this little light bright in my window tonight, so the whole world can see till you come back safely to me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine right out to my window pane, through the night and through the rain. I'll be praying constantly that it will lead you back to me. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. See my shadow up and down, long the teardrops fall. All the time I'm sitting here wishing you'd come back, my dear. Come to my window, knock on my door. Come to my hungry arms, long you'd leave no more. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine right out to my window pane, through the night and through the rain. I'll be praying constantly that it will lead you back to me. I'll keep this little light bright in my window tonight.
Yeah, there you go. September 1959 release, Robert Peebles and an unknown group there backing him up on the Jax label, Bill Lowry's Jax Records out of Atlanta, Georgia. This Little Light of Mine. As we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show, here's another rare 45, and I don't know much about this group or, well, a little bit about the label. I posted this one up on my Facebook wall. It's on the Pyramid record label. The matrix number shows CP, which stands for Custom Pressing, which was used as matrix numbers from the Wright pressing plant out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And by mid-1959, they changed the CP in the dead wax to RITE, which for that Wright pressing plant, and around mid-year or so. So this record, I dated this 45 mathematically is what I did, because I found out that for 1959 the matrix numbers span between the numbers. They give you 1706 to 2902, and this 45 was like 1825. So based on the Johnny G calculations, I say that this 45 came out in March of 1959. There you go. Deductive reasoning to come up with a date of this 45. But let's give it a spin. They're called the Debonaires, Debonaires, because lots of groups, they spell it differently. These are the Debonaires on the Pyramid label, and it's called True Love Has Come.
All around me there's discontentment and hate where love should be. For love has come, yes, love has come. True love has come to me. I've seen my friends at the altar. They promised the love and the babe. I have seen them part with a broken heart, but true love has come to me. I believe in love, I believe in love. Though others may say I'm a fool, I believe in love. Yes, true, true love, though it be well as a gentleman, I plead and pray in silence. And the thanks to the Maker I pray. The Lord has come, yes, Lord has come. True love has come to me.
Yeah, definitely an oddballs of side there on the Pyramid label. They're called the Debonaires. It's March 59 under my calculations. Pyramid Records, True Love Has Come is the name of the tune. The writer's Howard E. Taylor, and the flip side is not a group side. It actually might be like a pop record. I think it's by Terry Fontaine. It's called Dingo. I wonder what that sounds like. Anyway, John G here for a Saturday evening as we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show, and we got one more 45 out of 1959. It's a girl group that you all know. I've featured a number of their Dice 45s over the last few months, but this is their fourth of five on the Dice label, and actually it's a cover song, as this was first recorded by Johnny Louise Richardson and Joe Rivers, aka Johnny and Joe. They released it in June of 58 on the Chess label, but this is a cover for the Clickettes. Now, the odd thing is that on the Chess release by Johnny and Joe, they credit Zell Sanders as the writer, but on this release, they credit someone by the name of Lewis, which is kind of weird, so I don't know what happened with this. But anyway, let's go to 1959. These are the Clickettes on Dice, and their rendition of the tune, Why, Oh Why?
Why, oh, why, why do lovers treat you? Why, oh, why?
cover tunes here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those of you watching me on the Ustream broadcast, I was trying to line that up a little bit because it's slightly off center. I hate records that are off center a little bit, although it didn't sound that bad. I should actually ask for a credit back from that seller. I think Seymour Simon sold me that 45. Where's my credit, Seymour, on that record? Is hopefully you tuned into the Vinyl Treasure Show, and those are the clickettes from 59 YOY on the Dice label. Let's continue here. We move into 1960 with a flip side from a couple of weeks ago. I featured this group from Trenton, New Jersey. They were known as the Majestics. I played the first press. The first press of Searching for a New Love came out on the Jordan label. I have a cool looking yellow vinyl copy, and it features Larry Steele on lead, but that was the intended B-side. This is the A-side, which was a ballad. We go to September of 1960. These are the Majestics on Jordan. Larry Steele, he's on lead. The name of the tune is called Angel of Love. That record also available on the Pixie label. That's the second press. Originally came out on Jordan Records, September 1960. The Majestics, their tune called Angel of Love. The late Larry Steele, he's the lead singer. As we continue here on Vinyl Treasures, we stay in 1960. I was saddened. I saw a post on Facebook, saddened to see a post by Vito Pacone, and he, of course, was the lead singer for The Elegants, and they were from Staten Island, New York. Of course, their claim to fame was a national hit in 1958 on the Apt label. You all know that tune. It's called Little Star, which, by the way, was the number one record when your host, Johnny G, was born, September 3rd of 1958. But within the last 2 years, the group lost two original members. And on August 2nd of 2016, Carmen Romano, he was the baritone of the group. He passed away. He was 76 years old. And just this April 20th of a 2018, first tenor, Arthur Venosa, he passed away. He was 78, and he co-wrote Little Star along with Vito Pacone. So I was going through the record boxes, and I saw this Elegance 45 on the whole label, and I like it because I used to hear it on Gus Gossard. He used to play this record all the time, and we'll send it out in memory of those two members that have passed away. And this one is from January of 1960, a tune written by the lead singer, Mr. Vito Picone. We go to B. Caslin's whole records for this. These are the Elegants with their tune called Little Boy Blue. January 60 release for the Elegance. Vito Picone on lead there. That one there, B. Caslin's whole record label. That Gus Gossard would play that record all the time. Yes, he would. For you collectors out there, the exact title is Little Boy Blue, parentheses, is Blue No More. But anyway, John G here for a Saturday evening. We are in the early 60s now, and we stay in 1960 with another flip side from the last show, 50s and early 60s show a couple weeks ago. It's on Dick Huggy Boy Hug's Canton label. I played the B-side of this 45, a song called I, which was a cover of the Velvet's Red Robin release from 1953. But the A-side is pretty good in my opinion, but it would be so much better if it had a vocal group. You know those records that they just sound like to be great group harmony records, but there is no group in the background. Well, this is one of them. It was written by the lead singer, co-written by the lead singer. His name is Melvin Braxton, but that was his real name, but we know him as Johnny Flamingo. And this song just craves a vocal group, but I like it. It's from 1960 Canton Records, Mr. Johnny Flamingo. This is the A-side. It's called It Were You. Does that sound right? Yes. It Were You.
Darling, it were you that made
my life start anew. I was so lonely and blue until the day I met you. And darling, it were you that made my cloudy days clear. I'm so glad I found you, my dear. Gee, I'm proud it were you. I have searched and searched, trying to find someone to fill all this emptiness. Then that special day when you came my way, my heart was filled with bliss. And darling, it were you that makes my new life worthwhile. Oh, you did it with your kiss and your smile. That makes me know it were you. Oh yeah, it were you.
See, doesn't that song just crave a group? And it would be so much better, but that's Johnny Flamingo from 1960. That's the intended A-side on the Canton label. I don't think it should be It Were You, because were is plural, I think. Shouldn't it be It Was You? I don't think it should be It Were You. Anyway, Johnny G here doing English teachings here, although I am teaching history, music history. I don't know why YouTube gives me such a problem. I get like 18 to 20 copyright infringements, but they say, oh, it's okay. You don't have to worry, John, but you just, we're going to just show your ads and you can't make any money on these videos because you don't have permission to play them. I said, okay. But then sometimes they shut me down because some record I play, the artist doesn't, it says you can't play that, you didn't ask me, and I have to remove it. It's a pain, and you would think that this is a historical show. This is like a elective in a college, so let's call it that way, because I just don't play the music. I hopefully am educating the listeners as Johnny G babbles on, and we're going to educate this listener because this is a special request for Stephen Kahn, because he asked me if I had a couple records. I've been looking for them for a while. There's somewhere here. I'm looking for that Ideals for another guy. I can't find it, but I found this one for Stephen Kahn. He wanted me to scan it, and I did, Steve, and usually I don't have a lot of time to scan records. I do a few every time before I go on the air, but I don't know much about the record. It's on the Glottis label out of New York City. It's actually out of 1650 Broadway, and the writers are Dossie Terry and Leslie Butler, and the group is called The Colleagues, and this is the intended A-side, and I'm guessing it's from 61 by request for Stephen Kahn, The Colleagues on Glottis, with the song called I Want You, I Need You.
Baby, 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 you're so fine. I wish that you were mine. If I could make a hit with you, don't know what I wouldn't do.
Because I want you, yes, and I need you. Yes, I want you,
I need you. Yes, I do. Yes, I need you. I had a dream of you last night. I dreamed that I held you Yes, I do. Yes, I need you. Come on, baby, take my hand.
Take my hand.
Tell me that you understand.
You understand.
Baby, 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 you're so sweet.
So sweet.
You make my life complete.
Because I
Want you,
yes, that I
need you.
yes,
I want you, I need you. Yes, I do. Yes, I need you.
because I
Want you,
because I
need you.
because I
Want you.
because I
By request for Stephen Kahn, those are the Colleagues. The Colleagues on the Glottis label from 1961. I Want You, I Need You is the name of the tune. The only thing I know about this record is Dossie Terry. I know that artist. He was a blues singer, dates back to the late 40s, but he had releases in the 50s also on RCA, Federal, King, Extra, Amp 3, and I think his final single was in 59 on the Bonus label. Some pretty good ones with groups backing him up. I know I have a couple on the King label. But anyway, there you go, Stephen. What do you think of that 45? Let Johnny G know. Send me an email at vinyltreasures@aol.com. Let's continue. We are in Vinyl Treasure Overtimes. Let's play a couple more here. For this next group, they're out of Pittsburgh, PA. And they do this excellent two-sider. It's on the Atlanta label, and here's the intended A-side. The group is called Elroy and the Excitements. Now, Elroy is really Leroy Grammer. We go to April of 61. Atlanta Records, as I mentioned, Elroy and the Excitements. It's called No One Knows.
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 Just how much I love you. If they knew, if they knew, they wouldn't do the things they do. They try to say,
They try to say,
they try to say,
they try to say
that we're not in love. They just don't know. They just don't know. And it isn't so. Now time after time I try to tell them, but it seems as though
they just don't understand.
no one knows.
No one knows.
No one knows
No one knows.
just how much I love you. If they knew, they wouldn't do the things they do.
That song, that's a cool tune there. Reminds me of Little Willie John's Talk to Me, but that one there, very nice with the group. April 61, Elroy and the Excitements. Leroy Grammer, he's goes by the name of Elroy on that. It's No One Knows on Atlanta Records. It's out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Now, in 1962, they would also record as the Enchantments on the Romac label, a song written by Pittsburgh native Johnny Jack. It was called Lonely Heart, which features Leroy. You can see it on the label. It says features Leroy, and that is, of course, the guy you just heard, Leroy Grammer. John G here for a Saturday evening. We are in Vinyl Treasure Overtime, and this next group, still popular today, especially in the Carolinas, on the beach music sound. And they're from Lancaster, South Carolina. First started recording on Ernie Young's Excello label, but as the Gladiolas, they recorded the original version of Little Darling, which became a big hit, not for them, but for the Diamonds from Canada on the Mercury label. But around 1959, they changed their name to the Zodiacs. They had releases on many different labels, and they finally found success, though, when they signed with Al Silver's Herald label. They had a big #1 record in 1960. I know you know the tune. It's called Stay. But this was their third of 6 for Herald. And this one charted number 83 on Billboard, number 35 on WQTY out of Jacksonville, Florida. It was written by the lead singer. His name is Maurice Williams. We go to February 61 for Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs on Herald and their tune called Come Along.
Come along, such a wonderful joy. I wanna be your lover boy. Why don't you ask your mama? Is it alright? Well, to take a little ride in the still of the night. Still of the night. So fine, I've got to make you mine. Oh, come along, please hear my plea. Come along with me. Come along with me. Come along, come,
We'll send that one out to Lady Linda, currently in the Top Shelf Oldies Chum. She likes Maurice Williams and the Zodiacs. That one there, February 1961. On Al Silver's Herald record label. Come Along is the name of the tune. I remember finding that one for 10 cents. Really cool find at the Yonkers Raceway Flea Market for your host, Johnny G. As we continue here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Now, a couple months ago, I featured both sides of a Dunes 45 by Mr. Curtis Lee. I played Pretty Little Angel Eyes, and I played the flip side, the ballad, Gee, How I Wish You Were Here. Now, the unnamed vocal group backing up Curtis Lee were none other than the Halos. They included Carl Spencer, Bobby Spencer, J.R. Bailey, and Jerry Morrison. And here they are again, backing up another single artist from born in Hartford, Connecticut, but raised in Rockville, Connecticut, Mr. Gene Pitney. And it's a tune written by Jerry Goffin and Carole King, again produced by Mr. Phil Spector. This one charted number 41 on Billboard, 34 on Cashbox, a big number 5 on WSPR out of Springfield, Massachusetts. We go to November of 61, Mr. Gene Pitney on Music Core, and his tune called Every Breath I Take.
Hardly ever thank the stars above for sending me your very precious love. You'll never hear me say a prayer, but thanks to someone way up there who gave me such a lucky break. Oh no, darling, only with every breath I take, and every time we have to be apart, I hardly ever find you in my heart. And when it comes to thinking of the thought of losing all your love, I never worry how my heart would ache. Oh no, darling, only with every little breath I take, only with every little step I make, only with every little beat of my heart, and every single minute I'm away. Darling, only with every little breath I take, only with every little step I make, only with every little beat of my heart, and every single minute I'm away. Oh, every little breath I
November 61 release there for Mr. Gene Pitney and the Halos. The Halos backing him up on that one. Great backup vocals for that Halos group. Every Breath I Take is the name of the tune. Came out on the Music Core label. And remember, I was over I was at the Yonkers Raceway Flea Market sometime in the 80s, and a guy goes to me, "You're looking for records? Why don't you come over to my laundromat? I got a whole bunch of 45s in there." They were all mint with picture sleeves. I was showing Charlene this picture sleeve I have, and they were all $1, but they were warped. They were styrene 45s. They were warped, but they were all mint. And I ended up buying quite a few, and I was just hoping that they played. But this one has a slight warp. It played okay. But anyway, it's unfortunate that we lost Gene Pitney. Suddenly died of a heart attack at the age of 65 on April 5th of 2006. But that one there is a cool tune. I like that one there. Johnny G here for a Saturday evening. We are doing Vinyl Treasure Overtime. Here's a pretty rare 45. Came out the same month and year as that Gene Pitney release. It's on Jim Lee's Monogram label out of California. Now, this label best known for, I think, Chris Montez. And he best known for his big hit. It was Let's Dance. I think he does another tune called Some Kind of Fun. And there's some other obscure artists on this Monogram label. But this is definitely the rarest record on Monogram. This group is called the Citadels, and it's a cool sound of East LA. I like this sound here from November 61. Give a listen to the Citadels on Monogram. The tune is called Let's Fall in Love.
Let's fall in love. Let's fall in love. Now with you I can't help but adore. Please give me a chance. Don't take me out of this trance. There you stand, bright as a star. Here I stand, so near yet so far. Come on closer, closer to me. Come on, let's fall in love, 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 now that you're mine. Life is so, so, so sublime. Our love will grow and grow till the end of time. We fell in love. 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 We fell in love.
November 61 release for the Citadels. The Citadels, it's on Monogram Records, their tune called Let's Fall in Love. Now, this tune was covered 3 years later in 1960, no, 2 years later, not 3 years later, by Larry and Mike on the Piccadilly record label. Johnny G picking through some cool 45s out of his collection. Let's go into 1962 for this group from Big Spring, Texas. They formed at Webb Air Force Base. They had this one release on the Joe Ed record label. They're called the Elgins. The Elgins, it's from 1962, Joe Ed Records. The name of the tune is called Once Upon a Time.
Once upon a time, there was a king, Lord of the land. This mighty king was the king of Zion. He was so sad, for he was without a queen. Once upon a time, there was a queen, there is a land by all means, but the queen was for she didn't have a king. Then one day it happened, oh yeah, it happened. Just like child. Yes, as they were walking down the street, they met just by chance. It was the beginning of a brand new romance. I know you think this is just a story, and it never could happen in real life. Just think about your loved one. Couldn't she? Couldn't he be a king or a queen? Once upon a time, yes, once upon a
Sounds of 62 here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. Those are the Elgins. It's on the Joe Ed record label. Their tune called Once Upon a Time. I think they also recorded on the Gina label as the Mirrors. It's a 45 that your host, Johnny G, is still looking for. We are in Vinyl Treasure Overtime. Let's continue with a little bit more here. 2 weeks ago, I played the A side of this 45. It was called Take My Love, as done by a group known as the Corvells. They were out of Philadelphia, PA. Featured the lead singer of Billy Vaughn, and he would later change his name to Billy Abbott. And in 1963, record a tune called Groovy Baby on the Parkway label with his group known as the Jewels. But here he is, the lead of the Corvells, as we flip over the A side, Take My Love. Give a listen to the B side from April 62, the Corvells on ABC Paramount, and their tune called Daisy. April 62, a great two-sided 45 by the Corvells. It's on ABC Paramount record label, and Billy Vaughn, he's the lead singer. Their cool tune called Daisy. Johnny G continuing here in Vinyl Treasure Overtime. This next 45, it's out of Los Angeles, California. Speculation is that this label was owned, we can't say is owned because he passed away, was owned by Johnny Otis. It's called Caljo. Maybe it stands for California Johnny, maybe, but he does get writer credit on both sides of this 45, and the publishing is Phyllis Music, which is his publishing company named after his wife, Phyllis Otis, and either way, the song is a great tune. I love this tune from July of 62, Caljo Records. The group is called Denise Mills and the Satnets, and the name of the tune is called You Oughta Try.
Me
That's a cool tune there by Denise Mills and the Satinettes. July 1962 release. It's on the Caljo label. It's called You Oughta Try. And there are also some speculation that this group includes his two daughters, Johnny Otis's two daughters, Laura and Janice. There's a 45 on the Mexi label by Laura Otis and the Satinettes. So maybe they are related. Maybe they are. But you ought to try to tune into the Vinyl Treasure Show from 10 to midnight here on Saturday evenings only on Top Shelf Oldies. Let's continue. Here's another flip side from a couple weeks ago. I featured a group called The Values on the Invicta label with the intended B-side of their 45. It was called That's the Way. So let's give a spin to the intended A-side before I file this one back down in the No Humidity basement. Now, this side again arranged and produced by Skip Batten, and it's a cover song that was a big hit for Mr. Dean Martin. Yes, a big hit for Dean Martin in the late 1950s. But let's go to August of 62, give a listen to The Values on Invicta and their rendition of the Dean Martin tune, Return to Me.
Return to me. For my dear, I'm so lonely. Hurry back, hurry home. Won't you please hurry back to my heart? Return to me. Return to me. For my heart wants you only. Hurry back, hurry home to my heart, to my lips and my heart. My darling, if I hurt you, I'm sorry. Please forgive me, forgive me, and please say you'll be mine. Return to me. Return to me. Queda mio, ti amo.
Hey, there's some Italian being spoken in there. That one there from August 62. Those are The Values on the Invicta record label. Actually, a pretty nice rendition of that Dean Martin tune, Return to Me. Now, this is the same group that recorded as the Calendars on the Chattahoochee label. They do a great tune called You Don't Fall in Love. We continue here in Vinyl Treasure Overtime. Let's move into 1963 with a flip side from a couple weeks ago. I featured the B-side of this 45. It's on the Coed label. It was by the Miller Brothers. Great tune called Let Me Know. But that's the same Miller Brothers that recorded for Mercury back in 1958. But this was the intended A-side as we get our history lesson for tonight. So Johnny G is the professor, and I teach you all about the records, but this record is going to teach you a little bit about history, so listen closely. February 63, the Miller Brothers on Coed. The name of the tune is called Lawrence Was His Name.
Lawrence was his name, and he set the people free. Lawrence was his name, and he set the people free. To a land of blistering sand there came a stranger.
February 63 release there. Those are the Miller Brothers. Miller Brothers on Co-Ed Records out of New York City. That's the A-side. Lawrence was his name. Well, Johnny G is his name as we wind down here. Actually got 3 more 45s to go. Might as well fit them in here. And we go back to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, as this group really had 2 national hits in the year 1961. The biggest hit was their debut single on the Colpix label, and their rendition of the tune Blue Moon, a big national #1 hit. And their other release, another song they did, went to #7 nationally. That was their cover of the tune Heartaches, a 45 my aunt purchased back in 1961. But they had 13 releases overall on the Colpix label. This was their 12th, and they recorded this one April 16th of 1962, but it wasn't released until May of 63, and as a B-side. And we're going to give it a spin here. It features Cornelius Harp on lead. This one from May of 63, the Great Marcells on the Colpix label. It's a B-side, song entitled Give Me Back Your Love.
Give me back your love. Give me back your love.
Your kiss was a magic carpet that took me on a thrilling ride. In your arms I've reached the gates of heaven. Then your love, yes your love, took me inside. But oh my darling, when you left, all my wonders disappeared. Now I'm so all alone with no love of my own. Where are you tonight? Why did you go? Please come back. Give me back your love.
Give me back your love.
Let's fly back to that wonderland above.
To that wonderland above.
Come on, baby. Give me back your love.
Give me back your love. Give me back your love.
Just can't stand it. How could you ever be so cruel to me? 'Cause you swore you'd be true, darling. What can I do to prove to you we're meant for me? Please come back. Give me back your love.
Give me back your love.
Let's fly back to that wonderland above.
To that wonderland above.
Come on, baby. Give me back your love.
Give me back your love.
Come on, baby,
Give me
please.
back your love.
Please, baby, please.
Give me back your love.
Give me back your love.
B-sides here as we wind down on the Vinyl Treasure Show. The Great Marcells there, the late Cornelius Harp on lead, May 63 release. Give Me Back Your Love. It's on the Colpix record label. That A-side was actually a cool tune. It was called I Wanna Be the Leader, but I like that side better. 2 more 45s to go before John G signs off here on the Vinyl Treasure Show. A couple weeks ago, I closed the show with this group out of Chicago, Illinois. They were known as the Candidates. I played the intended B-side of this 45. Was their only release that came out on the Concord label. It was called Hypnotize. So how about I play the A-side as we go to March of 64. And again, Howard Pittman, he produced it. He also co-wrote the tunes. March 64 for the Candidates on Concord. The tune is called Time and Space.
I left town. I still love you, but I know that we are through, 'cause you found a new love, and I've gotta get away from you. But I really, really hope, pretty baby, yes I hope. Don't you know? I'm sorry, and I know I'm to blame for tearing us apart, by playing a game. I played the field when I knew your love was real, but I only hurt me because you set me free. Maybe, 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 baby, I say maybe, maybe, baby, what I say. Put me down, and I've gotta get away from you. Maybe, maybe, maybe someday, girl, maybe, maybe someday, yeah, what I say. But I really, really hope.
That's March 1964. That group called The Candidates. It's on the Concord record label out of Chicago, Illinois. The name of the tune is called Time and Space. Well, it's about time for Johnny G to leave this space. That's going to do it for Johnny G and the Vinyl Treasure Show. I want to thank you for joining Johnny G, listening to original vinyl 45s out of my collection. You want to get in touch with Johnny G, send me an email at vinyltreasures@aol.com. And been recording this one on the Ustream broadcaster. I'm going to get it up on my YouTube account, Johnny G Vinyl Treasures. That's the name of my YouTube site. And you can also go to vinyltreasures.net. You can download or stream all the shows on my personal website, as I had a blast spinning these original 45s for you tonight. And we got through the whole thing, Charlene. Again, we did. But our closer tonight is from October of '63. Now, earlier in the show, I played a 45 from 1957 by a group called the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes from Steubenville, Ohio. I played Since I Fell for You. Now, I mentioned that later on they recorded as the Stereos on the Cub label, but here they are from '63 with a release on the World Artist label out of Pittsburgh, PA. This actually was a big top 10 hit in Pittsburgh on KQV out of 1410 AM out of Pittsburgh, and it features Bruce Robinson on lead. Our closer is by the Stereos on World Artist from October '63, a song entitled Mumbling Word, or is it Words? No. Mumbling Word is Johnny G Mumbles. Well, that's going to do it, folks. Please tune in tomorrow evening to my buddy Dave the Rave and his Relics and Rarities show. It all starts at 9 p.m., 9 to midnight right here on Top Shelf Oldies, and all the cool shows here on Top Shelf. But that's going to do it, folks. I hope you enjoyed all the tunes. I enjoy bringing them to you every Saturday from 10 to midnight. Thank you, Charlene, for all your help. And I want everybody to have a safe and happy week. I'll see you here next Saturday starting at 10 p.m. for another edition of the Vinyl Treasure Show. Just want to say, everybody, so long.
You said you found someone new, and there's not a single thing that I can do. There he goes with the prize right before my eyes, and I know, yes I know, that I'm the one to blame. Whoa, it's plain. I can see that it's him instead of me, but I couldn't say not a mumbling word, not a mumbling word. Whoa, not a word, not a word, just the tears in my eyes. I needed you, you know I needed you more than I realized. Whoa, now that you're back, I hope that you stay.